Hi everyone. Welcome to the Lagos Tableau user group meeting for the month of April. We are very happy to have everyone once again, as always, and we hope that you have an amazing time today. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat section. Let us know where you are joining us from, and we would duly respond. We have like several other friends in the Tableau user group that would be responding to you in the chat. So feel free to say hello, feel free to network, and feel free to, just put yourself out there. Today, our theme is Beyond the Build, competition level design and the documentation that makes it last. And we have two amazing speakers from the community, show like the best of the best. We have Rafael Guevara, who is a VP of Data Visualization, Instrumentation and Metrics at JP Morgan Chase. And then we have Preti Loda, who is a Director, Data Analytics and Operations at the University of Massachusetts. If you are joining us for the first time, this is our call to have you join us and to be a part of the Tableau Data Farm in Lagos and Nigeria. We are dedicated to building a supportive and inclusive community for Tableau enthusiasts in Lagos and Nigeria at large. Our mission is to connect Tableau users of all skill levels, from beginners to experts, fostering an environment where members can share knowledge, network, and grow their data visualization skills. We are committed to promoting data-driven decision-making and showcasing the talent and innovation within the local Tableau community. All you have to do is to scan the barcode that you see right on your screen, and it will take you directly to our page on Bevy, where you can click and become a member right away. So the Lagos user group team in itself is a community in its own right, and we have several teams making it all happen. We have the co-leads that are making things happen, and then we have several teams. We have the speakers team that do our sourcing for amazing speakers like we have today. We have the newsletter team. We have the events team that like run things for our virtual and physical events. Then we have social media team, and then also our WhatsApp team for our dedicated WhatsApp community. The Lagos Tableau user group co-leads from Omoke and Dayodeji, who is currently on the call, to myself, Balao, to Maureen, and Idris, who are currently not with us but right now, but hope to catch up during the course of the conversation. Then we have the amazing speakers team. These are some of the incredible people doing the heavy lifting and making it all happen with us. We have Maureen, Stephanie, and Michael, as we like to do a shout out to everyone that is behind the scenes trying to make everything work. We also have myself, Mayoko, Lara, and Idris behind the newsletter team, which like we recently kickstarted again on Substack. So if you're looking at this for the first time, then you should absolutely have us subscribed on Substack. For the events team, we have Victor and Udwak. We're responsible for coordination at the level of the events, both for our virtual events and our in-person events, which is coming very soon. And then finally, we have the social media team, which has the most people, from Kenny to Israel to Jonathan, Aliu, Emanuela, and Martins. So everyone here works in different ways to make this Tableau user group a success. So thank you to everyone, and let's keep the good job up. Oh, and then the WhatsApp team, sorry. We have to be Jennifer, Abdulwarith, and Jamil, everyone behind the team, doing some amazing work, doing the heavy lifting and making it all happen. So for today's meeting, we have 3 ground rules, very simple. The first is to interact. Feel free to say hello and interact with the rest of the audience in the chat section. You would see folks from the teams that I shared earlier in the chat section, happy to say hello right back and just, introduce yourself and feel free. Secondly is for you to have questions during the course of the presentations from our amazing speakers. We definitely hope that you have some questions. And when you do, please submit your questions in the Q&A section. Selected questions will be answered live at the end of each speaker session. And 3, which is the most important, is for you to learn and to have fun. Our meetings are recorded and you can find them after on the LagosTUG YouTube channel. If you are a member or you are also subscribed to the newsletter, would send the link to the recording to you directly through mail. And now to our amazing speakers, we have Rafael Guevara, VP of Data Visualization, Instrumentation and Metrics, JP Morgan Chase, who would be talking about his Iron Viz Unpacked inside his 2026 submission. So just a little bit about Rafael. Meet Rafael with over 20 years of experience in data analytics across financial services, operations, and utilities. Rafael brings a deep and practical understanding of turning data into insights. For the past 15 years, he has focused on data visualization and dashboard development, helping organizations make better and faster decisions. He is especially passionate about developing talent, dedicating much of his time to mentoring and guiding others as they grow their skills. He has an ongoing commitment to learning, constantly evolving his craft and sharing those insights to the data farm, as you can see by us having him here, either through his mentorship as a Tableau ambassador or through his writing online. Outside of work, Rafael enjoys spending time with his family and exploring new places through travel. And then our second amazing speaker for today, which is Priti Loda, who is a director of data analytics and operations at University of Massachusetts, who is going to speak to us about how to build a guide to effective dashboard documentation in Tableau. Meet Priti. She is a director of data analytics in higher education, specializing in Tableau and data visualization. She's also a Tableau ambassador and featured author, has over 1 million views and 3 Views of the Day selections. You should absolutely check out our Tableau public page, which would be put in the chat as well by our other team members. She co-leads the Boston Tableau user group and the VZ winning Tableau public TUG, which is a very, very huge Tableau user group. You should definitely be a member of that. And she's also a multi-award-winning data viz practitioner and a frequent speaker at local and international conferences like we have today. So we would have our first speaker, Rafael, take the floor. And Rafael, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay. Real quick audio check. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Make sure you guys can see my screen. Just give me a thumbs up or an okay.
Yes, can see your screen.
So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I can't hide the smile on my face right now because it was really like I feel like stars have aligned because I've really been following you guys from the back seats, just checking out all you guys' amazing content online and through YouTube. And I want to say I'm really excited. Very impressive kind of setup and getting us all ready for this meeting. And I'm excited about Preeti as well because I think documentation has always been something that I have always shied away from. I've always had a tough thing about. So seeing that she's talking about that, I'm really excited about that because I'm going to learn something today. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. I do want to walk you through kind of the evolution of what I did this year for my Iron Viz submission. I do all this with just the main kind of goal is I want to learn something, and that's whether it's through my own mistakes, whether it's through seeing other like visualization submissions out there. But this year was somewhat unique because I took a lot of past learnings from the past 2 years. So let me walk through a real quick agenda, go through really briefly what Iron Viz is because everybody here knows what Iron Viz is. Go through real quick my past entries and then reflection I had on those submissions. I'll go through the theme and the learning objective that I kind of established. Because primarily, we all have grandiose dreams about being on stage one day, right? But really one of the biggest goals in mind was what can I learn out of this experience, but also what can I help others like yourself, interactors, learn from my submission. I'll walk through my build process, thought to publish, and then we'll do a quick demonstration. I'll walk through the viz and then do a revisit post-mortem, kind of talking about what I was able to learn from this current process, and we'll wrap it up then. Okay, so real quick, everybody knows Iron Viz is a data visualization competition. Anybody in the Tableau world can participate in, compete in. Top 10 get recognized. Top 3 get the opportunity to go to conference and kind of battle it out for Iron Viz champion. So a lot of the visualizations throughout time, if you all have participated, are around the theme. Published directly to Tableau Public, and then judges assess based on design, storytelling, and analysis. Entries show a mixture of creative design, Tableau skills, storytelling, and command of your dashboard skills. So, you really want to, for those of you that have thoughts about maybe participating next year, it's just really just trying to find a story you want to tell. How can you hone your current Tableau skills to, kind of showcase those, but also kind of tell the story that you want to tell and that you want to convey to users. So here are my past entries. 2 years ago, I did a submission on the Tour de France. The theme was, what do you love, right? So I will preface this by saying I'm not a huge cyclist fan, but what I did love about the Tour de France was it was something that I completely just submerged in that year, just learning all about it. It was primarily due to a Netflix kind of reality-based TV show I saw about the Tour de France. It intrigued me, the competition aspect, the team aspect of it. So I kind of dug deep into that. So that was kind of my flavor at that time. So when the theme came up, I was like, oh, maybe I can do something about that. And it forced me to kind of learn more about a sport that I've never really learned about or knew about before. That was my learning objective, was what can I learn about the sport and what can I share? Reflection, thinking back, I will say, full transparency, there wasn't really a lot of explicit, thorough thought behind this. It was a lot of building as I go. I was very timid. There wasn't a lot of planning that came into place, and I think that translated to what you see in the submission. Although there was a lot of great stuff to learn about the Tour de France, I don't think I really did it justice. So design flow was really something that I felt I did not kind of meet the mark on, and I've been pushing myself to learn more about design flow and how you can, walk the user through a proper flow to understand what the story is that you're trying to tell. Interactivity, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of things that broke that I realized when I submitted and I revisited. I really felt that it was more of just me kind of pushing myself off the ledge and really just submitting something. So that was kind of my goal, like that I realized that happened that time, was let me just submit it and kind of get over that fear. And then cognitive overload. For those of you that don't know about it, I have users that interact with dashboards that my team creates, and sometimes they come to me and say, you know what, Rafael, I get to it, but I'm just not really understanding where to go from here. I look at stuff that my team has done, and there's a lot to take in. It's overwhelming. It's not as simplistic as I would like it to be. So the cognitive overload in this was very evident, and that's something that I've learned over the past 2 years, was how can we make things more simpler, and how can we use blank space to our advantage. So that was something that really was really not a vital thing until I realized that that's something I need to work on. The one on the right, I submitted last year. It was around the theme of entertainment. Tableau just recently had a collaboration with IMDb in terms of, film and television. So I was really deep into that data set. I'm a really big entertainment person on film, documentaries, television. And one of my favorite shows of all time is The Wire. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's on HBO. I love The Wire, and I wanted to talk about the impact of it in terms of viewership, why it made such a huge impact. What I loved about the show itself is that it really honed in on issues that are still prevalent in my country, and a lot of the inner cities that, all over the country. So it really told some tough stories. It had an emotional kind of connection on stuff that I've experienced in my life in the past. So that's what I really loved about the show. Again, some things and reflections looking back. Design flow was something I still felt I needed to, improve on. Lack of user assistance. You could see on the top left I have icons, but it wasn't really explicit on where to go from there, how to navigate. So I really felt that I could have, done a lot better in terms of, guiding the user along with, to the fact that, hey, you're here, thank you for coming, and where to go from here, and how to digest all this great data. Okay, so the current theme for this last Iron Viz that we'll see the top three duking it out on the stage is about food and drink. These three learning objectives are really the learning objectives that I wanted to convey to you guys as the interactors. I wanted users to learn about the variety of authentic food dishes in Mexico, which is where my family originates from. Understand the indigenous cultures connection that those indigenous tribes or sections have to food today, and then awareness of authentic Mexican food within Michelin recognized restaurants all over the world. I wanted to kind of bring it more so of food in itself and its basic ingredients were vital back thousands of years ago around indigenous cultures in Mexico, and those same ingredients produce dishes that still are alive today within our families and have an emotional connection. Um, and then I wanted to end it off with just it doesn't just stop in Mexico. Those types of dishes are celebrated all over the world. Okay, let's see. All right, so thought to publish. This is kind of really the layout I took in terms of how I wanted to really get this thought in my head and publish it. So I did a lot of pre-work, which is something I've never done before in the last two times, and did a lot of data collection, understanding where I wanted to get that data, and then really spent a lot of time around design layout. That was one of the things that I felt I lacked, specifically in that Tour de France submission. So I wanted to try to find a way to make more of a journey in the flow of how you're interacting with the viz, rather than just kind of a segmented section or that kind of different. I wanted to marry those sections. That's what basically I'm trying to say. The build. I'll talk a little bit about the build, and then feedback interaction iteration. That's something that I've never done. I was always in my own little lab, kind of putting stuff together, kind of hoping that it resonates with someone. But this time I felt like I really need to do something different. I need to put myself out there, interact with some people in the data fam, and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about submitting. What do you think? I'd appreciate some feedback. That's, I think, from a professional experience, has helped me out a lot. That's something probably in the last 5 to 10 years that I've really made an effort to do, not only within the data fam, but professionally in my career, is really stay humble, stay kind of patient with, your limitations, and really be transparent. Ask people that you look up to, or ask people that have those skills that you don't have, that you're striving towards, to offer you feedback and assistance and support. So that's one thing that I'm trying to do now within just my offline visualizations in Tableau Public. Okay, so pre-work, really just paper to pencil. You could see from the image that I provided, I have a lot of notes on what I wanted to convey, things to discuss on the top left. I talked about icons I'm trying to consider, charts, suggestions. And then on the right side, I really just broke down how I felt I wanted to have the flow of my design. I this was having a really tough time, as on the bottom I put layout short form versus long form. A lot of great long form submissions that are out there are elegant, are beautiful. I've tried to do that with the Tour de France. I still don't feel it had that purpose. So I was still trying to find that magic combination for a long form dashboard. So on the design itself, you can see I drew out that, I really wanted to kind of have a flow. And then authentic Mexican food. I really wanted to convey that food to me equals emotion. It really has a nostalgic feeling to me. And this is one thing why I was excited to speak with you guys today is, I'm sure, go back thousands of years in Mexico, there's a bunch of indigenous tribes that make up different regional, types of lineages in Mexico today. I would assume in your part of the world where you're from, you have that same kind of connectivity, right? A lot of generational value, generational stories that have been passed down from generation to generation, that just like I have in Mexico. So I really wanted to convey that, to me, food really is our love language when it comes to families and cultures in Mexico. And that's something that I really, really, really love about just food in general within our culture. Is it conveys emotion, it conveys celebration, it conveys just connection within the family. So that's really one thing that I kind of wanted to bring to plate when it, on this visualization. Okay, let's go real quick. Next one. So some more pre-work. I like to look at Pinterest just to kind of get inspired. I brought some of the photos that I saved and some other like photos from the net that I use. Like I just save on my hard drive just as I have a thought in mind. I try to, just search out there for images that strike me, that resonate to me. So you can see a lot of vibrant colors. I see a lot of tribal symbols, some Mayan kind of symbols, some Aztec symbols. I see some dishes that have mole, which is one of my favorite things. I'm hovering over. I love mole, and then of course tamales, and then corn. Maize is a very strong and impactful ingredient in our culture, just as I would assume like grains or stew are in your part of the world. That itself, grains and stew, also plays a big impact in our culture. Um, Papel picado. So if you guys don't know about this, so these are more celebratory type of decorations that you can see in festivals all over Mexico. And then the one thing I just wanted to convey here is just the usage of color. I knew that color is an important aspect of my culture. And in Mexico, you can go to various towns all over the country and still be overwhelmed with all these great colors and how they interact with each other. So I wanted to make sure that I really made an effort to use color wisely and not only have the connection to where color is used today all over Mexico, but also just have it all work in an easy flow. And then of course in the middle, these images are just they bring me back as a kid. Seeing my mom cook, seeing my grandmother cook, seeing my mom and my grandmother cook together. A lot of these things really convey a lot of emotions internally. I think of my grandmother's hands, although rough and calloused, really making elegant dishes. I think of my grandmother making dishes and just being filled with joy, seeing all of us eat her food. So these are all emotions that I have inside, and I'm sure hopefully you guys have those same type of connections that I wanted to convey. So data collection, I definitely wanted to show the user about the various different indigenous cultures. I wanted to stick to perhaps the top indigenous cultures that or tribes that are out there in Mexico from the past 1,000 to 2,000 years. There are a lot more kind of separate, like hybrid tribes out there, but I wanted to make sure for consistency and simplicity that I stuck with just these main kind of top tribes. I wanted to talk about how those ingredients from those different indigenous tribes resonated to now you have regional plates, right? You can go to the coastal part of Mexico and enjoy seafood there, and it's probably going to taste a little bit better than you would if you go to the desert in Mexico, in northern Mexico, where my family's from, right? Or understand that beef or pork just may taste a little bit better over here, or those dishes migrated down to parts of the world where they weren't really prevalent. And then I also wanted to kind of tip my hat to Latin cuisine, Mexican cuisine all over the world. One thing I didn't learn was just how popular Mexican and Latin cuisine is all over the world. You can find Michelin starred restaurants all over the world that specialize in this type of food. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's a good homage to just the authenticity that Mexican food has, not only in Mexico or in the United States, but all over the world. And then I also wanted to end it off with just a tip of the hat to social media, right? Authentic Mexican cuisine is no longer something that's at the dinner table or in the kitchen or in just some really small restaurant. It has reached the masses, and there are people that content create and explain how these authentic dishes are made. And so I will kind of show you how I've kind of brought it back to social media and bring you to that level. So again, these were some things that I wanted to hone in on. Use the use of bar charts and timelines, the use of maps, obviously images as shapes, URL actions, radar graphs. I wanted to make sure that I not only showed about just food in general, why it's a deep to me and my culture, but also explain what it is that I'm trying to convey and what skills I'm trying to highlight. So back to the design layout. As I mentioned, I decided on a long form layout. I felt that it was something that I wanted to try again. I don't think I did a great job last time, so I wanted to do it again today. I wanted to talk about indigenous plates and how that makes a straight lineage to dishes today, and really just highlight ingredients as the cornerstones of our dishes in Mexico today. I wanted to treat user interaction as a progression through time. So as you can see in the photo where I designed, I wanted to talk a little bit about just the foundations on top, and then just start making your way down to a regional aspect, state by state, and then world influence, and then one nation, but also just many influences all over the world. So as you can tell from that, I have a lot of like squares, and I'm connecting it with some kind of line. I decided to use Figma to create a background, and that line was basically a vine that started from the very top, and throughout the whole kind of visualization submission, it would just windle its way down to the bottom. So I was hoping that that would be more of a guide for you to learn about the food and the connection it has, but also learn a little bit about the culture of Mexico. All right, the build. So I wanted to really showcase dynamic zone visibility, how that interacts with the dashboard elements, the containers. I wanted to be able to use maps, not only just regions, but states. I knew that from an indigenous tribe perspective, that those didn't stay within boundaries of states, right? So they spilled onto many states. So how could I find a way to utilize those elements in states, but still kind of show the whole footprint of that indigenous tribe? I wanted to use URL actions to lead users to external sites, specifically in the end when I was highlighting a social media content creator on authentic Mexican cuisine. And then, of course, I wanted to leverage tooltips to educate users. I wanted to hopefully have every element of the dashboard itself. If it was an image, an icon, then there was something there to show you, a little bit about that, why I chose it, or the connection it has with Mexican culture. All right, feedback session. So this was something, like I said, the first thing I did was I reached out to people in the data fam that, I had a connection with, and said, hey, take a look at this visualization. Tell me what you think. Be honest, be transparent. Let me know what it is I can work on. I reached out to 2 colleagues who have received Visit a Day honors in the past. And so a lot of the stuff they gave me was great. A lot of the stuff that they gave me was eye-opening, to be frank. And I was ready for that, right? So they told me, use your fonts wisely. Do your fonts render correctly? That's one thing I'm sure we all experience as visualization creators, is you're using a great font. It looks great. You publish it to server or to cloud, and then you're like, wait a minute, that's not the font I use. Well, probably because there's a compatibility issue, right? You don't have that font in the server or in cloud, right? So you have to really make those tough decisions to make sure that what you're building is rendering the same way on Tableau Public. Font size matters. That's something that I definitely did not consider in my last 2 submissions. So I really wanted to make an effort that everything was legible. In post-mortem that I'll talk about in a little bit, there were some issues that I was able to identify, but really font size does matter. And then again, like I mentioned in the photos that I got from online and Pinterest, was color usage is really important. I didn't want to overwhelm the users. I wanted to stay true to the story and use colors that resonated within Mexican culture. But I also, from iterations with feedback from other people, I wanted to, I was given the feedback, you need to make a tough decision. You want to tell the story, you want it to resonate with the culture there, but you also want to make sure that the user itself can distinguish, right? And can make the distinguish between the contrasted colors. So I had to go back to my lab and, really make some tough decisions on color and understand, yes, this resonates with the story, this resonates with the culture, but does it actually resonate with the user actually interacting with it, right? So that was some really good feedback that I got from one of the Visit a Day authors that I interacted with. And then storytelling is a certain piece. It's really just all about the story, right? If you want to submit something specifically in an Iron Viz submission, it's great to showcase your skills. But if you don't have a story behind it, and if you don't have the user leave with something either that resonates with them or that they can learn, then I think there's an opportunity there to fill that void. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick demo real quick. Let me push this out to the share. Okay. So this is called Raíces y Sabores. And what that means is roots and flavors. This was something that I really wanted to, I wanted the user to come away just learning about, food's emotion, its connection, and it's embedded in our roots. And again, I'm sure I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure that this will be something that'll resonate with you guys and your connections with your families and your cultures. So I'm hoping this renders. It was fine, but as I moved it, so we'll go through it. All this image itself was done using Figma. So everything you see here, that's probably in blue, or that is in red is part of the image. But this was I wanted to highlight the vine you see here. So the vine itself is what I was kind of envisioning on that paper to pencil drawing, hoping that it just kind of winds you through the different kind of elements that I wanted to walk you guys through. I can go over. So this is still rendering, but I'll speak to this still. I wanted to highlight the different Mesoamerican cultures that are available in Mexico that have roots there in Mexico. You can see there's the Mayan civilization, the Zapotecas, the Chichimecas, Aztec civilization. So I wanted to give kind of a highlight to those civilizations, have a little bit about them. I will real quick. Let me open up another one and just make sure it renders again. But the idea of being here is that I can show a little bit about the cultures itself and highlight what their main ingredients were, why those were more favored in those parts of Mexico than in other parts of Mexico. And okay, great. And then just kind of give a little bit about it. So if you hover over any icon, I have a little blurb about it, why it's important, why I feel it has an emotional connection to our culture. So I have chiles on the vine here. There's an Aztec mask symbol. So you can hover over any of these icons to get just a little tidbit and some information about it. But I will let me click on one. This is the Chichimeca Udo-Aztecan civilization. So I have a word map here in Tooltip, a little word map of all the ingredients that were prevalent, primarily just because those were the types of ingredients that were real fruitful in those parts of the country. You can grow in those parts of the country. I have a little bit about the civilization here and about why it plays a role and why it's important. So you can go over this. This was something that I wanted to convey footprints all over the country, but also so like it spanned many states. So that's why you see a lot of the borders and why those kind of civilizations have a footprint just beyond all the states in Mexico. As you continue down that vine, I wanted to talk about just the different regional palettes that you get of flavor. I talk a little bit about what's called the trilogy. So maize, corn, squash, beans are all kind of, I guess you could say, paramount in our food. You find it in different dishes. So that's what I really loved about it, was I wanted to highlight just like the godfathers of our food, right? But also give some references to, you have the ingredients and now it's all about flavors. How are those flavors prevalent all over the country? So I can click over a region here. Let me see real quick. And then get kind of a side view of the regional palette using a radar graph. This was something that I thought was, really telling. I wanted to show how flavors were different across different parts of the country. So that was something that I really enjoyed. And then the one thing I liked about this was I wanted you guys to leave with something. So I wanted you guys to understand the different regional dishes, the top dishes in each state. So if you we'll click on Chihuahua, which is where my family's from. You can click on Chihuahua and then get a little bit about just the different top dishes that are available, or at least more popular in those parts of Mexico. So I have two per state. You get a picture, a little bit about it, and then you can click here to a link to actually get a recipe for it. So that was one of the things, is I was hoping that people would interact with this, see something that looked good, that looked delicious, and then they can leave with a recipe and hopefully try it themselves. And you can click through all different parts of the country to get those different kind of dishes and why they're important, why they're emotionally connected. So that was one thing that I thought was interesting, that people can play around with this and travel over the country and just get an idea of what how important food is. So I talk about Mexican cuisine on the world stage. This was a circular graph, a radiograph that I created about Michelin identified restaurants all over the world. So the red representing that that country has a footprint of some type of Latin or Mexican cuisine. So I can click on France. Obviously, they have a lot of restaurants I've recognized, right? But the ones in white are really just highlighting those restaurants that, either specialize in Mexican or in Latin cuisine. So that was kind of the element that I wanted to bring here, was show that, authentic dishes in Mexico have a footprint now beyond Mexico. I have some more about how social media plays a huge role on how the cuisine is just, not only just Mexican and combined within North and South America, but now has a foothold in, dishes and restaurants all over the world. And then I have a little bit about a spotlight. This is Doña Angela. She has a YouTube channel. She makes authentic dishes from her home in her ranch. And for those of you that have not heard of her, she's very popular, has like millions of subscribers, a lot more popular than just some really big name chefs from all over the world. So, she created something because she wanted to share her love for food and share how, it's important to her. So you can click here, go to her YouTube channel, and just kind of, just enjoy all the different dishes. And she walks you through every single element of how she makes those dishes. So that's the one thing I wanted to bring up. And then, of course, I have my citations. I wanted to make sure that I call that out. Was, whenever you're creating something, you're submitting something, you always want to, give credit to the visualization creators that inspired you, the data, where you got it from, and, just give, alignment and, credit where it's due. So let me go back really quick to the revisit. So again, I'm my biggest critic, so I revisited this numerous times after submission, and I really felt that there was still a lot of opportunities there. There was an opportunity for dual integration. I probably could have used one map and try to find a way to dual integrate the integration, giving the user just one stop to integrate with the map. I could have done that. Flavor profile section. This is when I was alluding to on font size. I think the goal was there. I enjoyed what came out of it, but I don't think I had enough canvas for it. And I probably should have made some more tougher decisions in terms of how I wanted to portray those different regional flavors. It seemed a little overwhelming in looking at it now. So there was definitely some I guess you could say some cognitive buildup that really kind of lost users, I believe. And then the Michelin star section, I use an advanced visual radial bar graph, and in discernment, I really felt that I was probably doing too much. I think at that point, I probably should have centered myself back to the story, made it a little bit more simplistic. That was something that I felt lost myself when I was looking at it. So I felt that I probably could have made it a little bit more simplistic and left the interaction just to the maps. So then that aspect of it, I think I would have done that a little bit more differently. All right, so what I learned to close off before questions, timing's key. Always time out your build, your dot to publish timeline. A lot of times, and I'll just use this as an example. This is what I believe. You don't know what the theme is going to be for Iron Viz, probably like maybe 6 weeks prior to submission. So one thing I did this year was I didn't know the theme, but I knew I wanted to talk about something specific to my culture, to food. And so when food was introduced, I felt, okay, this makes sense. It resonates to my culture. So I had already had pre-work done in terms of the indigenous tribes and what I wanted to talk about. And it was just a matter of kind of finding that connection to food, which made it easier for me. So I did a lot of planning even before I found out what the theme was. Format's just as important as the information itself. That's one thing that I think I still sometimes have issues with. Make sure that it's format, make sure it looks clean, make sure that you use blank space as part of your formatting. That's one thing that I felt was uh, really key telling of my growth. If you look at my profile, was finding a way to use blank space to your advantage. And then feedback looks crucial. Get feedback, interact with people in your tug. Find some folks that you value their input or value their work on their profile, and just get some really feedback and be expected to, sometimes be put into a position where sometimes no one loves to hear critical feedback about what they do, right? Especially about stuff that they love to do. So be humble, be prepared for some really tough conversations, but regardless of all that, feedback's going to make you better. And I feel that that was something that I need to start doing on all my entries. And then of course, iterations are expected. Plan for it, right? So this year I tried to have a goal to have it done a week prior. That didn't work. I was just like everybody else, probably tweaking and iterating on the day it was due. So that was something that I need to be better at. But plan for iterations, plan for revisions. Keep it simple. Design to invite users and lead them along. So that was one of the things that was really paramount. And just from the pen to paper, paper to pencil to now is I wanted to make sure I brought users around that journey. So that was kind of the main thing that I learned that I hope conveyed and resonate to you today. So I'll leave you guys with this. There's a QR code. Please connect with me. All my links are there. But primarily, one of the things I wanted to take away was Mexican, indigenous, and I would say Nigerian culture as well. Food's more important than nourishment. It's a powerful bridge between generations. I think it's identity, it's community. Cooking serves as a teaching tool for culinary values and history. So I can have stew or have menudo or pozole is what they call it, and that takes me back to me as a 12-year-old being served by my mother. So there's a lot of emotion that's tied to that, which I feel is deeply connected to your families and your generation. So thank you, I appreciate it, and I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Rafael. I think people loved your session so much. You have loads of questions.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the questions out to you? I could do that very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So from Priti, she's asking, as a Viz developer, I often struggle to call a project finished because there is always more to tweak. For your Iron Viz, when did you decide it was done, and what trade-offs did you accept to meet the deadline?
So that's funny. And I hope totally agreeing with you guys that it's never really done, right? You always find ways to find tweaks. So to be perfectly honest, for this year, when I really found out it was done was when it was the day to turn it in, like usually like hours to turn it in. And then a quick story. I was with my family on a trip to the UK. We left the day before it was due. So I was already losing a day. And then literally the first day we were there, we were in a city called Bath in the UK, in England. And I was literally without my family for 4 hours in the public library working on it, just because there were things that I wanted to fix. And I just kept telling myself, you got to fix it. You got to fix it. These people went through, a lot of time and effort to block times in their calendar to give you feedback. You got to fix it. So I really felt that at that time, it was, once I was able to apply their feedback and modify that, that's when I felt it was ready. But again, and to your point, it's never really done, right? It's a living thing. And that's one thing that I wanted to share is there's a lot of stuff that I would love to change. And if I can go back in time and tell Rafael from 6 months ago, like, hey, you really got to work on this, I would say work on that radiograph. You don't need that. It's too much. So I probably would have done that. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Then to the next question. In doing competitive vising like the Iron Viz, how do you manage wanting to go all out and build impressive stuff alongside the pressure of working with time and trying to submit on time, for example?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things for me was I had kind of an I had kind of like an outline or a structure already made on paper. So one of the biggest things that I held myself accountable to was sticking to that. I There were times where on the television show, the Wire one that I did was I scrapped a lot of stuff that I felt I was gonna do when I drew stuff out, and I changed it. And I think that had me sacrifice a lot of time that I could have taken doing iterating or formatting. So I stuck to what I drew out, and I stuck to that outline, and I think that's what helped me kind of stick to my timeline, and really finding a way to put soft dates on things like, all right, I got to be done with data collection here. I got to be done with the build here. I need to give my colleagues at least 2-3 weeks for feedback, because I don't expect them to immediately go to my profile and look at it. They have lives too, right? So they're doing their favor, so give them time. So it was more about just making a decision on the build, sticking to that, and then following my timeline.
Amazing, thank you. So a question from Ebenezer. Hi, Rafael, great Viz. Was there anything tricky in the data collection or modeling stage that significantly influenced your design choices?
Yeah, so there was a blog that I had read from the Flederich twins. They did something where they were talking about how they incorporated JavaScript to resize images, and that was something that I had actually leveraged on a Spotify dashboard I did. You know how, like, for those of you that have Spotify every year, like, hey, here's your top artist of the year, right? So I did a viz on that, and one thing that I noticed was when I was clicking on different artists that I listened to throughout the year, it would show all these images that I selected, but they were all different sizes, and it didn't look right to me. It didn't. It looked really just not as streamlined and slick. So I found a blog post by the Flurridge twins, and I can share it to you guys later, and I'll make sure I will, that use JavaScript and a Git repository to resize everything. So no matter what the size was, it resized it to everything being the same. So that was kind of an added tip that helped me with that. I tried to do that here, but I found issues on the JavaScript when I was trying to troubleshoot it. So the decision I made at that time was can't do that on a URL action. So I'm going to use an outside source to size everything the same, and then create shapes, and then use those dishes, those images as shapes. So that's what kind of, for my sanity, made it more comforting for me, knowing like they're exactly the same size. You did it. Use them as shapes. You're fine. But I kind of still wanted to use JavaScript, but those were little things that I had time in my timeline to make those decisions.
Thank you for that answer. Two more questions. So just quickly, let's go. Following up previous question, did you add some last minute extra ideas that were not included in your original game plan, but you felt would add this extra ingredients to the great Iron Viz recipe? And let me
So,
just take that with the next question. And
sure.
she also asked if you used any custom made polygon maps for describing areas which are not valid as regions in modern region based maps.
I didn't use any custom polygon maps. I just basically used the default kind of methodology that Tableau uses for maps. I did use some layers to display the tribes across the many states. So I was working with that as well. In terms of, last minute tweaks, again, the original image I created in Figma, I used like this really cool, like font that I thought was great. And I was like, man, this kind of pulls everything together. It's the font I had on the very top for the main title, but I had used that all over the image for like the call outs. And I realized when looking at it, and it was called out by some of the folks that helped give me feedback, was that it didn't make sense because that that font in itself was not available in Tableau Public. So it rendered everything else that I did on the workbook itself to something totally different, and it just didn't seem like it gelled together. So that was the decision I made at the very last second. Was like, I got to change this font on Figma. Let me try to find a font that renders specifically to stuff on Tableau Public.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we have for now.
Okay,
Um,
thank you so much,
thank
guys. I
you.
appreciate you guys. You guys are stuck with me. I love the setup you guys have with the tug. So please, I'll be joining you guys on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Now we move to our second speaker for today, Prithvi. So you have the floor. Stage is yours. You could share your screen. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
GB. Before I share a screen, Rafael, I do want to let you know I have been the Iron Viz for past couple of cycles, and I agree with everything you were saying so hard. I was nodding my head. You could not see because I was offline. But yeah, it's like design is so important, right? It is the first purview of what we look into a Viz when a judge is Vizzing. We do have lots of criteria. We go back and look at it, but all great insights. Thank you for sharing it. Okay, so now you all are stuck with me, and I hope we'll make this a little bit interactive. So my expectation is when I ask you certain things, if you can come up and chat and chime, that would be really helpful. Okay, so what are we talking today about? We are talking about something that most of us have struggled at some point. That is called something called dashboard documentation. Uh, so today I'm going to walk you through what the challenges are and how do we overcome this. Okay. So Okay, so what is the structure of today's conversation going to look like? We are going to start with the challenges, what happens when your documentation is missing. Then we will break down the 7 essential components of what a good documentation could look like. I'll walk you through some practical strategies and in product features in Tableau that you can use right now. We will also look at few real world examples that will include templates and other stuff. And finally, we'll close with some best practices for smooth handoffs so your dashboards can live on successfully even without you. That is the key thing, right? You might not be there all the time. The dashboard needs to work still. And of course, we will wrap up with the Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, to please post them in the Q&A section. Quick background. Thank you, GB, for the introduction. I'm Preeti Lodha. I'm the Director of Analytics and Operations at University of Massachusetts. Little bit background in terms of Tableau about me. I am a Tableau ambassador. This is my Tableau public page. The thing that I'm really excited about right now is I do have a Viz, which has over 1 million views. Yeah, I was trying to answer a question for myself if I was spending according to what I should be spending. I created a database out of it and looked like everybody wanted to know an answer to a similar question. So that was exciting. I also co-lead the Tableau public user group and the Boston Tableau user group. A quick intro to the Tableau public user group. If you have seen those Viz of the Days, we invite speakers with the Viz of the Days to come and showcase us the process of what the build was like, what was their criteria from start to end, and we have a lot of fun conversations. This is virtual. It happens every month, so please do come join. And if you are ever in the Boston area, we will be happy to host you. Come say hi to the Boston Tableau user group folks too. Okay, so now let's start with some real pain points. And this is where I want some interactivity from you all. I will show you 3 scenarios of if you have ever faced any of those scenarios, put in the chat scenario 1, scenario 2, or scenario 3, right? Okay, the first scenario is the mystery dashboard dilemma. Have you ever been asked to update a dashboard that you did not build? You open a file and nothing is making sense. The field names are like calc1, or the filter name is like filter test, final. And now you feel like Sherlock Holmes who's trying to figure out what all this means. I have been there. This is a live example of one of my dashboards. One of my analysts was trying to fix something, and they had the filter test named as filter test final. The filter was not working, which in turn made sure that my dashboard was not working. And I had no idea what this filter was for until I had a conversation with my analyst. Okay, This is a second scenario. This is for those larger organizations where it is like you are a consultant. You have created this beautiful dashboard, you're proud of it, and you are handing it over to folks. And now the people realize that they don't know what half of the filters, parameters, or KPIs mean because you don't have a documentation of it. You just have this beautiful dashboard. So, what happens when such dashboards break down? They are going to have rough time unless you leave a map for them to figure things out. The third scenario, this is my favorite scenario, and I promise you I have experienced this. This is called the troubleshooting time warp. You built a dashboard, everything goes great, something breaks down, and months down, you are trying to fix it, and you are starting to look at your own calculation and be like, what was I even thinking? I don't know what this calculation means. And this was something that you had created. This is why documentation will be just as much for future you as for anyone else. So these are the three different scenarios that tend to happen. A lot of times you don't know the why behind the dashboard. There's no explanation of some calculations or filters. And a lot of times you're afraid to touch because something might break. The good news is all of these problems are avoidable. So completely avoidable with a solid documentation. So now the question is, what should your documentation include? I've broken this down into 7 key areas of what we are going to include in our documentation. Um, a quick background, you don't need to write a novel. It is just something for someone to pick up where you left off and very easily work off of it. Okay, so let's go section by section. The first section is the overview section. This is where you start with the big picture. The questions you are trying to answer is, what is this dashboard for? Who uses it? What are the key metrics that are being tracked? Think of this as your dashboard elevator pitch. It provides necessary context before anyone gets into the details of it. So as you see, I have dashboard name and link. I recently realized that I need to start providing the link to the dashboard because we do version control and there are dashboards, for example, named enrollment 1, enrollment 2, enrollment version 0.3. So people were like, okay, so this documentation is for which dashboard? And we were like, we will provide you with the link. You identify who the creator is, when this dashboard was created, when the dashboard was last updated. When I say last updated, it's not when your data was last refreshed. It is more of when you went and made any changes within the dashboard. The purpose of the dashboard, a very brief description, a primary audience, if you have user groups created in your, if you have security groups created in there, you might always want to tag those. But if your primary audience, you want to say as, oh, this is senior leadership level, or this is an executive dashboard, or this is a analyst dashboard, whatever information you can provide, provided it in the primary audience. Uh, I enjoy the key metrics tracked because this sort of right away gives me an insight into the dashboard without even touching it to know, hey, what questions does this dashboard answer? What can I see? Any basic business questions you might have been answering, list those too, and how to use this dashboard. A lot of times, it is easier if you provide images of your dashboard within the documentation so the people know, hey, these are the filters that I need to interact with, these are the tooltips, and these are the other views that are available. So this will save a little bit of time for anybody who is trying to fix the dashboard that has been broken. Okay, the next step is data. This is a significant one. This is where a lot of connections break. So you want to identify where your data is coming from. How is it connected? Is it live or an extract data set? This section should help your users to understand the foundation of your dashboard. So they know the data, where the data is coming from, even before they start analyzing your visuals. And as you see, it is pretty straightforward. You're identifying your data source name, whether your data source type is from a file or server. If it is coming from a server, you might have user IDs and passwords for those. I would strongly suggest do not share any IDs and passwords within this documentation. You can always create a link to an external documentation, which is password protected. So if people want to know, hey, what are the logins and stuff, they can easily go and figure that out. Data connection information, provide that. That is something that you can detail, such as your file name, path name, location name, and all that good information. Connection type, this is very critical to identify whether your connection type is live or extract, because one of these times my users came back and they were like, hey, I cannot see today's data. And we had to explain that, hey, this is on a weekly refresh. So the day when it refreshes again on a Sunday night, that is when you will see the new data set. But if you are expecting that you want a daily refresh, then that is a conversation we need to have. So this sort of answers the question of already without having to go into the dashboard and look at why your data might not be refreshing. Identifies those joins, relationships, unions, and blend, because that way you're right away laying out how this data has been brought together to build your visualization. Another key thing that a lot of people forget is key filters applied, because a lot of times we want to reduce the data before we are building our dashboards. So any of those extract or data source filters that you are placing that might impact your data, please do mention them here. Okay, so this is where a lot of dashboards often fall apart, right? Your calculated fields, parameters, or sets, something breaks. If you have built a calculated field with nested logic, now somebody has to open 3 different calculations to understand what the calculation is doing and why your calculation broke down and what was the reason, what was happening before that. Or you have added parameters for your custom views. You want to document what they do, when they are used, and where they are applied. Otherwise, somebody is going to spend a lot of time reverse engineering your thought process. And this can be very easily done. You are just going to create a table of your calculated fields. You identify your field name, you write the calculation. But the purpose section is where I sort of suggest that you put down the words of why this calculation is written in a certain way. This will sort of provide a background to the people who are trying to understand your calculated fields. And especially in the tabular format, what happens in this documentation is any nested logic can easily be seen. I'm not now opening 3 different or 5 different calculations to see the nested logic of the calculation. I just open this documentation and I see all the 5 calculations in one go. Same goes with the parameters and any sets you might have. Okay. This is the interactivity section, right? Your filters and your actions. If you get any bad data into it, your filters might break. So what are your dashboard filters in place? Are there any highlight actions, URL links, or any sheet swaps that you might be doing? These all need to be documented because they often break silently when the data changes. Again, pretty simple. For anybody who knows filters, there is an order in which the filters get applied, right? So your context filters get applied first, then your dimension filters, then your measure filters, then your table calculation filters. So you have to be very mindful of how you capturing all this information, because sometimes there might be a context filter that you are not expecting is filtering out the data, and you are like, why I'm not able to see the data, or why is the data not coming through with the data change that has happened. Same goes, capture all those dashboard actions, identify if there is any filter actions happening, highlight or go to URL, go to sheet, all those various actions that you can capture. Okay. This one is the daunting one, because now you are coming to the next step of your build, and now you have published. Performance is the big one. When I mention performance, I'm referring to the speed with which you can work in Tableau. This means the speed of your data analysis, such as working on a Tableau desktop if you have a large corporate database that you are trying to access remotely, or it could also refer to the speed of loading views. A lot of organizations probably have these rule of, hey, the dashboard needs to load in less than 7 seconds. So when you are accessing your dashboard from your desktop or from your Tableau server, is that performance being maintained? If you have optimized your extract size, or if you have limited your data by removing unnecessary columns, or if you have aggregated your data, you might want to note all of that down into this section. Also, if you have noticed that, hey, my dashboards generally load at 7 seconds, but this dashboard takes 10 seconds, and we have decided that it's okay, that you might want to mention those issues and quirks so that nobody else is like trying to figure out how to come from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. You will save somebody a ton of time by just saying, hey, this has been agreed upon. We know this dashboard takes a little longer to load. What are you capturing? You're capturing your data extract size, any performance notes, your dashboard load times, any performances and issues or fixes that you might have done to this dashboard with the dates in it. Access and permissions. This is where I say you will have to outline your security and access structure of this dashboard. Why I say maintain this into your documentation is because you might want to alert those users, letting them know, hey, your dashboard has broken. We can either roll to a previous version or we are working on. And keynote again that I would put an importance on is do not share the individual user list here. Create a separate document, link it here. So only people who have access to look at the people who have access to these dashboards can access it. Not everybody who can open the documentation can see the list of users, because there are a lot of privacy rules across organizations of maintaining those things, right? What you capture in this, you are going to capture the list of roles and permissions that you have. If there are any developers who have owner or editor accesses that on this dashboard, you want to maintain or capture that information here. Finally, this is the seventh one. And this is where you are providing the version control information. As I said, a lot of our dashboards go through updates, right? So version 0.1, 0.2. This is where you want to provide a critical information about your troubleshoots, your audits, your hands-off, any track changes that were made, who made them, why were they made, when were they made, and you want to assign this to someone and to maintain it. So you're also identifying who the owner of this dashboard and what is the maintenance plan of this dashboard. Assigning clear ownership will ensure that not only as your developer, but your users will get a continued support and accountability for the updates that might be happening. Okay, that was a lot of information that I threw at you. And so how do we do all of this in practice? I have two strategies. You don't need any fancy tool for this. While there are tools available in the market, I say you can document most of this right in your Tableau using comments, descriptions, and color coding, or you can build a simple template in Word document or Google Space or SharePoint, whatever your organization uses. The point is choose one of the practices and stick to it. Okay, so let's talk about the features inside Tableau that you can use today without leaving the workbook. You can add comments in your dimensions and measures, add comments in your calculated fields, leveraging sheet descriptions. This is my favorite one. A lot of people do not do this, and I'm excited to show you what this looks like, and color coding your worksheets. Okay, so let's talk about adding comments in your dimensions and measures. Your data source, dimension, or measure field name often can be unclear. So what you can do is you can add a data dictionary of sorts, or an individual knowledge that you might have about the data source that might not be immediately available, by adding a comment to the dimension or the field that clarifies the field and serves as the reference for your client. So what I'm doing over here is I'm right clicking on one of those dimensions and clicking on default properties, and the comment section comes up and the comment bubble pops up. You provide the information that you want to. And in future, whenever anybody is hovering over this workbook, they right away get an insight from that data dictionary or your personal knowledge about the data source without having to have an understanding of the data. This is really helpful when somebody new joins your organization and is trying to fix your dashboard. The second one is comments in your calculated field. Tableau allows you not only to add comments in your calculated fields, but also add comment on your calculated field. So in any given workbook, you can create numerous calculated fields, and knowing exactly what that calculated field does at time is easy, but recalling that after a later date, as we had experienced in one of the problems, right? The scenarios where you forget what this calculation is meant for. So what I say is, when you are creating a calculation, very quickly make a comment about this. You want to capture what this calculation means and what expand on why you are creating this. If you are creating a multi-step calculation, identify what step of the calculation it is. If it is a calculation step 1, 2, 3, it sort of now gives a hierarchy within your comment. And do not, this is one place where I say, do not be afraid to include too much information, because trust me, a small amount of detail, you don't know what would be helpful. And if you are like me, I love leaving my name on my calculations. So I make sure that I add my name to my calculations. Okay, so this is a game changer. There is a little known shortcut called Control E. So if any of you want to go onto your workbooks, open a workbook and click on Control plus E on one of your sheets, a sheet description will pop up. This is a ready-made documentation already that is generated by your Tableau workbook. It provides you information about the rows and the columns and the fields that were placed on marks cards, your calculation formulas, your comments, your data source, your type of connection, a link to a location. So if you are not wanting to update a Google Doc with all that information, I would say is this allows you only copying this. So copy this sheet description, paste it in the Google Doc, and that jumpstarts your process of documenting your dashboards. Okay, this is one of the best practices that I say, because a lot of times it provides the visual cues for the people who are working on dashboards. So let's say in your given workbook, you have 3 dashboards, and you want to color code all your worksheets with your dashboard so that the people can very easily keep track of what is associated with what. This will serve as a visual cue that will prove helpful, especially, for example, that I'm going to show you the Superstore dashboard. It has 3 or 4 dashboards in it, right? It becomes hectic of knowing, hey, this sheet belongs to which dashboard. This color coding will help your user when they are trying to fix something or fix a dashboard to know what sheets that they need to look at. Okay, that was a lot of talking and showing what it should be. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you the 2 options that we learned. We will explore the examples of embedded comments, sheet description, color coding, and I will also show you a whole downloadable template that you can create to keep consistent documentation practice. So let's go with the workbook first. So this is a Superstore dashboard. Everybody has at some time engaged with it. This is the first purview that you get when you get into Tableau, right? So this is the workbook that we were providing. And as I was saying, if you look at it, it has a lot of dashboards. There's an overview dashboard, there's a product dashboard, there's a customer's dashboard, there's a shipping dashboard, and there's a lot of information up here. So how do I know which worksheet belongs to which dashboard? The simple way of doing this is you want to select your worksheets and you want to color code it. So since these all belong to overview, I'm going to say the blue is the color. So next time when you see everything blue belongs to your overview dashboard, everything yellow belongs to your product dashboard. So that was pretty straightforward way of organizing your sheets, right? The other thing that we talked about was leaving comments on your region. So as you see, I've already put a comment here. How did I do that? I'm right clicking on the dimension, and I'm going to go to my default properties, click comment, and you want to type in whatever information that you might have. A data dictionary, you might have some personal knowledge about this, you want to type it in and paste it. And now in future, whenever you hover over, it's sort of providing that information right away, that and what does country or region mean? Country or region means where the order was shipped. So that's an insight you have readily available. Next, we talked about calculations. This is where I love giving this tip. A lot of times it's hard. You might want to look at the symbol to find a calculation, but the easier way that I found was if you type C colon, it lists all the calculations you have in your sheet. So pretty much straightforward, right? And there are multiple filters that you can use. I think for parameters, it's P colon. I don't have any parameters here, so it's not showing up, but C colon, hey, the calculation comes up. And so this is the calculation, and I want to go and do multiple things, right? I'm going to open and edit it. And this is the calculation. I'm going to do something. So as I said, I want to add a comment in here, which provides information. So you might want to say created on, whenever the calculation was created, put a date, and that's it. You always want to check this bar at the down side where it says the calculation is valid to make sure you have not broken, because sometimes you might just put a / and think that it's okay, but it's not. It will right away let you know the calculation has errors. But you might have a question, Preeti, what if I have a long calculation note to write? That is where this symbol comes up. So you can type as much you want, multiple lines, as far as you close it back again. And you see, it says the calculation is valid. So you don't have to rely on the single line sort of a note that you want to make. You can use this opportunity to capture that information. Okay. So, but a lot of times I don't want to open the calculations, right? So what I generally do is I go into the calculations default properties and comments, and I paste the calculation over there. So now whenever I hover over it, it sort of right away shows me what that calculation is. So this is the fun part of it, right? Okay, now coming to the secret weapon that I was talking about, Control E. So I am clicking on Control E on this. No, I want to go to, okay. I clicked on Control E, the sheet description popped up. You see there's so much information already being provided about what is in your worksheet, not about the entire workbook, but what is in your worksheet. What were the fields that you used? What did you place on columns, filters, text, dimensions, and measures? So what you're going to do is click copy and paste it into a document of where you are saying this is going to capture all my documents. This is going to be my documentation model. But because this has 1, 2, 3, 4, you might want to go in each one of them and click Control E. This information pops up, copy and paste it. And that way you now have 4 different sheet descriptions pasted into a document, and you can very easily call it that, hey, this is my documentation. I'm going to edit or provide information on this. So it sort of becomes a basis for you. So these were the things that you could do using Tableau. You are not even leaving Tableau, but what about the document that I was talking about? It would look something like this. So this is a Tableau dashboard example that I have created. Again, the Superstore dashboard, the different sections that we talked about. This one has a little bit unique perspective in it, because you might see that I have a whole section about worksheets and layouts. And we found out that, hey, a lot of our dashboards are not, a lot of our workbooks have multiple dashboards, and each dashboard has multiple worksheets. It is becoming difficult to maintain and organize those. So we said, oh, we are going to add a section of worksheet and layout. So this is what I mean when I say make this your own. Depending upon your organization needs, you can make it as small or as big you might want it to be, but just start creating this process. I'm not going to walk through the entire section, but as we were saying, you want to capture all the information. You're providing your links. You're identifying who the primary audience is. What are the key metrics? What are the business questions that are being asked? How do you use it? This is where you might want to add a few images, or if you are like, hey, I can just do the text and I'll be good, provide the text. This is the section that I wanted to come and talk to you about the calculated fields. So if I had to go and open, let's say your worksheet had like 10 calculations, you will be opening each one of them, trying to see what the formula is and get an understanding of what it is. But what this helps me now is it lays out it into a singular table and provides me with all the information. Yeah, so a lot of that same information that we talked about, your performance, your access and permissions, your version control. Lastly, we do have an additional section, contact and support. You want to identify the dashboard creators just so that people know, hey, who was the original creator of it. So if they are still in the organization, you can have a chat, but if not, then who are the feedback contact person that you might want to reach out to and have that conversation in. Okay, so we are almost coming to the end of this. Now, the last section that we are going to talk about is the best practices for dashboard handoff. I would say documenting things is one thing, but knowledge transfer is another thing. And I strongly urge do both. Documenting things is not just a one and done thing, because sometimes you document things that make sense to you, but when you are showing it to your team member, they might have questions. So you might want to conduct a walkthrough session once your dashboard is built, once the documentation is done. Just sit for 15 minutes together and do a quick walkthrough session. Make sure you are documenting any assumptions and dependencies that might be in place. If you have version history or a rollback plan, a lot of our organizations have rollback plans, and letting their audiences know, hey, if a dashboard is broken, we are working on it. You can either go to the previous version, or you might be like, you know what, this is going to be only 15 minutes before I fix this dashboard. So we are just going to do that. So those are the things that you might want to discuss at that point. Ensure your access to your source files and credentials is private, and only people who need to have access to it can view it. And this is very important. Have a person of contact. So your dashboards just go to die and be like, oh, I did not create this. I don't know about this. That should not be an answer when your dashboard breaks down, right? So that's it. This is the last part of your dashboard development process. Strongly urge not to keep documentation as an afterthought, although it is no substitute for original dashboard developers' knowledge. A good documentation will be the next best thing. So incorporating these tips will make your life easier and make sure it is beneficial for the next developer or the future you. So there is a code that you could scan to get the documentation template access, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pretty. We have several questions for you, so I'm just going to read them out. If you, yeah. So first, I could start from bottom to yeah. So what can someone do if they have just joined a company that has no documentation on their existing projects?
Great question. And trust me, that has been the struggle, right? Like we were a part of organization where there was no documentation happening. This is your opportunity to become the champion for documenting. But yeah, this will be a steep learning curve. Now, you need people's time and energy to walk you through the process, the best practices, where everything is. Somebody has to show it to you. So what I have suggest is you start the documenting while you are getting that knowledge from the folks. it is difficult, and I totally understand. And that is why you want to become the proponent of documentation. This is hard work, but trust me, somebody who comes after you is going to really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then another question is, what would you say is the most effective kind of external documentation? Then as a follow-up to that question, also, what's your take on using AI to document to sites like Confluence or Jira directly?
Thank you for the question. So to the first half of the question, I would say there are tools and technology out there. So it depends upon your organization. If you have dollars to spend, I think I was talking to folks from JP Morgan. They were like, hey, one of our groups uses this tool called Rapid Docs. So it is a documentation tool where you provide the information about you provide your workbook, and it creates the documentation for you right away. Um, so those are the ways that you can do. But again, I come from public industry, and it is like we don't have a lot of dollars to spare. So these were the sections that we figured out would be most effective for us, is either use the Tableau because you are working in it right away anyways, or use one of those external sites where you are like, if you have SharePoint at your workplace, or if you have a Dropbox, create a hub of documentation where all your developers can go and share the knowledge. And thank you for asking the AI question. That has become more prevalent. I was talking to Will Sutton because he keeps talking about Tableau MCP, and I'm like, you know what? I need a documentation tool. Can we figure that out? So probably an opportunity for the data fam members here. If you want to figure out using the Tableau using the MCP to document the dashboards, you might be earning monies, and just give me a cut of it. So I will be grateful.
Thank you. And then another question is, how does the documentation approach change when scaling from a single dashboard to a full Tableau cloud or server environment in a large business?
Yes, so that it becomes critical. That cannot be now a single person job sort of a thing of doing documentation, right? Now every single developer of yours will have to document, and this now becomes a team sport of maintaining that documentation. And this is where you set the ground rules of having a documentation hub, as I was saying, or investing in a tool and technology that can maintain these documentation. And this is not sort of an afterthought of your build process, right? It is now integrated in your build process. It will add the time. So this is something that you will have to consider when you're doing your projects, about the amount of time, dollar, and energy that it's going to be spent, and how do you want to maintain it. A lot of times you have to sell this to the leadership, and how you can show this is the amount of time it reduces when something breaks, the process of rolling it on. We are in the Tableau crowd environment. So I promise you, we have gone through the process of, hey, doing all the stuff. The data sources are refreshing, and we lost all the data dictionary stuff that I was showing you about. Like, hey, I put comments in my sheet, but the data source changed, and I'm not able to see it anymore. So that is a learning you have had. So these are the experiences that you are going to go through and figure solutions out. Yeah.
Okay, one final question. So Emmanuel is asking, like, from experience, how companies or the stakeholders, how it makes sense to them to include documentation as a part of the project in scenarios where it could even extend the total time that will be needed to complete that project. So how do you find that balance in communicating that?
Yeah. So I've had this conversation from the consultant's perspective, where a lot of external consultants who come and build you these dashboards, and then they leave, and you don't know how to maintain this dashboard, right? And that was the question they asked. Hey, if you want to create us to create documentation, it's going to cost you 4 extra hours. And in the long run, we've realized that those 4 extra hours is much easier to pay a consultant and maintain it rather than trying to do ourselves. Uh, and again, I want to keep repeating, do not think this as an external thing that you have to do. This is your dashboard build process. So you're not calculating this as, hey, my dashboard build is going to take 6 hours. documentation is going to take me 30 minutes. You are going to say, hey, my dashboard build is going to take 6 hours, 30 minutes, which includes all these things. So that is the perspective you want to bring, the change you want to bring into the practice. Again, these are like having a data champion or having a dashboard champion. You don't want that title, but you want to have those best practices included into your workflow.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think those are all the questions we have for now. Um, Thank you. Do you have any other additional notes or anything else to add, Pretty and Rafael, before I try to round things up?
No, if you are coming to Tableau conference, I would look forward to meeting some of you and say hi. But this was really fun. Thank you for having me. I get excited talking about documentation, not one of the most glamorous topics, but that is a necessary evil. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pretty, for your session as well. And then to everyone, I think we can say at this point, thank you everyone for attending. We definitely hope to see you in May for our next event. Once again, we're dedicated to building a supportive and inclusive community for enthusiasts in Lagos and Nigeria at large. Our mission is to connect Tableau users of all skill levels and to foster an environment where everyone can share knowledge, network, and grow their skills. We are committed to promoting data-driven decision making and showcasing the talent and innovation within our community. Please feel free to follow us on X at LagosTUG, LinkedIn, YouTube, so you can catch a recording of this session, and also on Substack, so you can follow our newsletters. Thank you so much, Rafael and Priti, for honoring our invitation. Thank you for your